It's Tuesday, June 2nd, and we're going to commence with our workshop. This is a workshop, so it'll just be pretty free-flowing conversation. The point of the workshop is to kind of get the ball rolling on the new town office. Hopefully, we can have a proposal ready for folks before the year's out. So, and we have a guest here. Tim, and your last name is?
Spencer.
Spencer, and Tim works for Gordon Construction. And Brian had been emailing back and forth with us, so we really appreciate you coming and see if we can get the ball rolling. Anybody want to start?
Tim, have you been brought up to speed as far as why we're doing?
A little bit. My understanding is that this building is in need of repair, and it's very costly, and it makes sense to explore different options, for sure.
Yep, that's kind of where,
Right.
precisely where we're at. Yeah.
Right, that's exactly, that's what we're doing. And so we're
Yep.
really, I think I speak for all of us, we're really open for any candid suggestions. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Maybe we haven't thought of an angle that is very clear to you. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I've done a couple of these town offices for different towns, I've looked over the plans that you guys had, the preliminary plans done up by True Value. The size of it, I have a few concerns with the size, just knowing that it doesn't leave you really any room for growth. I always like to look down the road, 10, 15, 20 years, I think it gives me a good idea as to what we're looking at, Mike has filled me in that there's two different sites that we're possibly looking at, one being the ball field, one being the town garage. The town garage, I have some concerns about the drainage up there, with just the sloping. I know the site, and I think it opens you up to some drainage issues without doing some extensive, groundwork. The ball field is flat. I think there'd be some grubbing up there, but obviously, that's really no big deal for us. It's a fairly quick thing to do, but with a flat site, it gives you a lot more options. It makes it a lot easier for parking, just snow removal. I think you'll have a lot going on up there during the winter time, with plow trucks coming in and out and loaders moving around, and you'd have basically. Correct me if I'm wrong, there'd be some demo up there and some tying in, and so that's more of a renovation addition type
I think the way we envision that location is, like you said, demoing the majority. There's 5 bays up there.
Yeah.
It's like an L. You got an office on the Robinson's end. The two biggest bays are next. We when we were just noodling it, we imagined keeping those because we have a loader, we have a bulldozer, we have some equipment. We'd keep that office. So everything else would probably go away.
Right.
And that would have to be buttoned up properly.
Exactly.
And I think you had mentioned to me that reusing an old slab is rarely cost effective.
It's very rarely is it ever cost effective.
That's interesting.
Normally what I know that Brian had offered the Abbey Fowler School up, and was talking about building on the existing slab, and I talked to Brian. I said, listen, we'd have to do an overpour on that. Obviously with radiant heat, there's ways to do it, but to me, brand new, there's different ways of doing it. You can do the 5-foot cross walls with with a slab on grade. That's the best way if you don't need the basement space, then that's the best way to do it. It adds a little cost to the project, you know, I mean, it's, but again, I mean, it's, you either build things to last and look into the future, you know, 20, 30, you know, I look out, you know, next generation. I don't build stuff to, you know, have issues with it 5 years from now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like that concept. There's, you know, there's a lot of builders out there that, you know, I mean, would definitely do something like that, but, you know, that's not something that I recommend.
So even with the slab, you're saying a 5-foot frost wall, how thick is the slab?
Usually you go 6 inches
6 inches?
on a radiant slab. You can do 4, I mean, it's, you know, you can do a 4-inch slab. You know, concrete these days is far beyond what it used to be 30 years ago. I mean, it's way stronger. You know, but, you know, again, it depends on, you know, how energy efficient you wanna go. I mean, you can go extreme with it, and you gotta be careful as to how far you go with that, cause then buildings have issues with breathing.
Right,
You don't get them breathing properly, you run into all kinds of problems.
yeah.
In the last couple of years, I have shied away from spray foam. I know it makes buildings airtight and very energy efficient, but I've seen issues with them. I've seen issues with air quality inside the buildings. They require a lot more commercial grade ventilation systems. It adds a lot of cost to the building. You know, there's all kinds of products out there that.
So, have you worked with STIPS panels as opposed to?
I have, and I'm not a big fan of them.
You're not?
I do not like them. Again, it comes down to, I've done 2 projects with SIPS panels. One of them had severe mold.
Oh. Did it have a ventilation HVAC system?
It did have a ventilation system in it, but if you don't get them sealed properly, and what we had was a slight gap. What happens is that when you shave the foam out of them, it's not perfect, and you know, you lay all your backers in there, and you know, if they don't get sealed properly, they leak, and then they start causing condensation, they start causing mold. Electrical is also an issue with them. I've done panelized buildings without the foam in them, which, you know, works out pretty well. You know, I mean, there isn't much for construction practices that I haven't done. I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of the conventional stick frame, you know. You get it right. You get it right, you see, you know, you can adjust stuff. You know, I mean, it's, you
Panel
know,
fabrication works, it's just, it works in a different application.
it does.
You get into a
You know,
more
everything,
industrial, larger scale building with more air and everything else.
well, that's just
But when
it.
you start talking a smaller, tighter area, you don't have any room for mold.
This is
I mean,
not, I mean, this isn't a very big, this isn't a very big building. You know, again, the size of it, I question the size of it.
Yeah, well, that's valid, I mean, I think that's,
And also,
That's not a whole lot of square footage.
that doesn't even include a library. When we're done with this,
Right.
we imagine a presentation with a library and one without a library, and the folks will decide if they want to continue a library. And I've spoken to the library folks, and they're working on what they anticipate their square footage need would be.
Yep.
And so we can, you know, I'll get that to you and you can add it too, but they have already decided that the library of the future doesn't have nearly as many books. It's more electronic, more digital, and so they're working on what they think the footprint would look like,
Yeah.
so.
Could we maybe work that in with a community's room? I mean, we call it the community room, a meeting room, where it could do double duty, both as the library and as the meeting room, I don't know, if that's a possibility.
Maybe, I just think it could get to be clunky,
Could.
you know? I mean, like today, we're meeting at 4:30, typically.
The library be
The
open,
library would be open right now, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I can see where, and I mean, we've had daytime meetings before too, where,
Yeah.
you know, you've wanted this room, and when you get into voting and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I was thinking about is
Yeah.
if we don't stay in the town center, in other words, if we don't use the public works building, and assuming nothing else comes up that makes sense, and we move everything out to the ball field, it seems to me that the push for a library might be lessened, because now all the foot traffic within the town center is not likely to walk out there.
Oh, I think if you move this
Exactly.
up to the town garage, you're gonna see the numbers going
Drop
through
down.
the door decline a lot.
Yeah,
And then you go out there, you're gonna see it go.
right, so
I mean,
if we end up going out there, the likelihood of, because other towns have gone through this kind of transition, and even as small as our library budget is, we could pay for every citizen to have a membership at any of the surrounding libraries every single year, and we would never come close to what we're currently spending, so.
Absolutely.
I could see a solution like that.
Yeah.
So
You know, I mean, as far as if you're looking to incorporate the library, unless you keep it right here, you know, that's why when Brian had originally talked to me about, you know, was exploring the Aggie Fowler School, my thought is that's a perfect site for a daylight style basement, which opens up you a lot of room. You know, I mean, you're doubling your square footage right off the bat with a daylight basement. And parking, your parking lot's already here. You know, there's a lot of parking up there. You know, so I mean, that site actually had some very positive, you know, aspects of it.
well, it's still not
Yeah.
completely out of the running.
Yeah.
We need a comparison.
But I mean,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a matter of, you know, where do you want the budget to, you know, there are towns out there that are spending, you know, they're well over $1 million on projects like this. You know, some of them are $6-7 million. I mean, I don't think we need to go down that road. I mean, obviously, them are for the bigger municipalities that, you know, incorporate fire stations and
Sure.
stuff like that. I mean, but,
what's the other thing with us is, I mean, as we show, our numbers are just getting smaller. You know, when you say 20, 30 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, I think the bigger question is, are you even gonna, how much use or need is, so I don't really think, I think we need to be as conservative, provide a building that we need, with a foot what we need for space, but I don't see where we're gonna have any growth to be any bigger than what we need functioning.
It's hard to imagine.
I mean, we would have to, I don't know, I just don't see it would be there. But the only I do question though is if, it would be a good comparison, if you're talking about a building with a 5-foot, frost wall on slab, and we do have areas that we didn't, it's like there isn't anything there for all your utilities and all of that things.
Yeah.
There's not much for, storage space, there's not.
Not that we're gonna take a lot with us.
No, but I'm just saying, you
But
are
yes,
gonna have
we
to have a
do.
footprint.
you're
Yeah,
right
you
though,
can-
you're right though, there isn't a whole lot there.
There isn't.
You know,
But
we
if we went with the,
mechanical space, I mean, we do it way too often, we just cram way too much into a small space, and then it ends up being a headache down the road. You know, for maintenance wise, you know, or anything like that, you run into issues. You know, I see one of the offices on here right outside the fire safe room, you know, 5'8" by 6'4".
Well, I think
You know, that's,
I don't know what she was thinking.
you
there.
throw a chair
Well,
in there and you're
I
done.
was talking about having a computer for public use if they wanted to look up tax maps or.
Oh, so
you
more
know,
like
so
a
I think-
cubicle.
So I think she boxed it in, what I was thinking, I was just gonna throw a computer out there and,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I mean,
and I haven't spoken to her again, we haven't
Tweak.
Right.
tweaked this at all.
But my other question though is, I mean, if you're talking a 5-foot frost wall on a building, if you look at a footprint of saying, well, we're gonna go this much more bigger, you aren't really talking a lot of money difference to keep it smaller and go into a full foundation.
Right.
I mean, you're damn near there anyway.
Yeah.
So, I think we kinda gotta look at that both ways too. Do we go bigger this way, or do we go a little smaller and utilize the downstairs?
Yeah,
See
you gotta
what
be
those
careful,
numbers-
you gotta be careful with code issues on the downstairs though. You know, I mean, you know, I know that we've run into issues with codes doing a basement.
In a municipal building, or
Uh,
just in general?
Well, I mean, for egress or anything like that. If
Okay.
it's a usable space, then you have to have, you know, you have to have 2 ways of.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
We ran into that up to, you know, up to the medical facility up here, up on top of the hill here. When they wanted to redo that, you know, there were some issues up there. But they
I was
gotta-
thinking, you know, mainly for mechanics, could be down there, and also for like your file storage or retaining room.
Well, that's just it. I mean,
Those type of
if
things,
it's,
not for,
if it's storage space, I mean, that's, you know, that's completely different. You know, you just gotta be careful with that type of stuff. You know, so I mean, I think a full foundation is really the way to go. I mean, it gives you all your storage capacity. I mean, it opens you up a lot right there, and it doesn't add a whole lot of cost to it. You know, I mean, I know, Brian was talking about doing a slab on grade. You know, I mean, it's an inexpensive way to go, but, you know, is it the best way to go? You know, it's not really ideal. I mean, we get a lot of frost and stuff still moves, no matter what you do. And if you're talking radiant, you also lose a lot more heat. You know, I mean, you can contain the heat within the slab by going to the frost wall, by doing a thermal break on them. You know, you can thermally break them. You can't on a slab. You're actually losing your heat right out through the side of them. But, so I mean, you know, a small building, I mean, you can get them very energy efficient. I mean,
Is radiant heat the way you would go?
I'm not a big fan of radiant heat myself, but I mean, it is, you know, it's pretty simple. You set it and leave it alone, and, you know, but you get these days, you know, as we all know, I mean, you go from, you know, 40s one day and you'll be in the 80s the next day, you're gonna roast. I mean, you're gonna have to have your, you know, your AC on, and, you know, you're gonna be very uncomfortable without, you know, a different system in there.
Well, you've got, I don't know, you'd want at least 2 zones, wouldn't you? One for your community room and one for your office. But the stuff, but it lags quite a bit, is my understanding. I mean, you don't turn it up 10 minutes before you go in.
Right, no, I mean, as a rule of thumb, I mean, concrete takes 3 days to reach.
Yeah, I mean.
it's worse the other way though, like he was saying.
It is worse the other way, it's a
You
lot
know,
worse.
if you've had a couple of cold
Really?
days, if you've had a couple of cold days and now you've got this slab, you got all your heats up to 70, and now all of a sudden,
It's
tomorrow, it's 80,
Thursday's
90
75.
degrees.
Yeah, but still, it's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
70 in the house, because we have radiant, concrete floor radiant heat, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's always 72 year round.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's 72 in the summer, but that's a nice temperature when it's
Sure,
82 outside.
but I mean, essentially what happens is your concrete is always trying to heat.
Correct.
It's always thermally, you know, it's holding that heat. Concrete holds a lot of heat for a long period of time. It takes a long period of time to cool off, takes a long period of time for it to warm up. You know, there are ways to get around that. I mean, you know, yeah, obviously, I mean, you know, a lot of places are doing heat pumps, you know, and that helps swing things the other way. Increasing the tubing size on the radiant heat, from 1/2 to 5/8 makes a big difference. It heats quicker. You know, it can bring a slab temperature up a day early, just by increasing it, you know, a little bit. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it.
And I guess for us, you know, cost, you know, we would want to see the cost benefit ratio between all of these things, you know, radiant heat versus heat pumps or whatever it
Right.
may be, you know, that you know, we're not stuck on any one of these
I
things.
can't imagine, we're not gonna save a lot of money compared to what we're used to spending. I mean,
In this
The
building.
structure alone is gonna be, I mean, you go to new construction, you're gonna be so much better off.
Mm.
And we're not gonna be that big of a footprint.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's.
yeah, I mean, what's the
that
least
penny.
expensive form of heat, forced hot air or hot water baseboard or?
You know, I mean, it's,
I don't mean in terms of cost over the 10 years, but to just install it.
you know, I've looked at it and I mean, there isn't much difference, you know, really.
Okay, so then it really is, which the most efficient over the next 10 years?
You know, I mean, the way things are changing in the mechanical world, I mean, you know, I mean, a radiant slab with a, you know, propane fired boiler, you know, these small cabinet boilers, I mean, are producing, you know,
Yeah, like a little
Really good
NTI
number,
or
yeah.
cube.
yeah, I mean,
so-
they're super efficient.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, it's, they're all about the same, no matter what. I mean, a BTU is a BTU, I mean, it costs you
Right.
X amount of dollars, I mean, it's, you know, I heat my house 3 different ways, you know, and all 3 of them cost me exactly the same. It doesn't matter what I run, doesn't matter if it's oil or if it's pellets or if it's, you know, heat pump. They all run me about the same, you know, but I mean, new construction, I mean, obviously, I mean, the key is to get them insulated properly. You know, get your envelope tightened up and make sure that, you know, you get the proper ventilation and everything. And then it'll work. Radiant's probably one of the cleanest, I mean, as far as, you know, I mean, you don't really have to worry about it too much.
when, getting back to Abbey Fowler, when you were saying a daylight, are you talking about excavating the hill?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
You
because
could
I
use
mean,
the
that would actually open up your parking even more.
Yeah,
If you set the building back far enough, you could open that up, I mean, and,
Oh,
you know, and then you have all your parking down here,
I see,
plus up top.
right, huh.
So, I mean, daylight basements, I mean, there's a little more cost involved with that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I mean,
And then in order
doors
to
and windows and everything else, I mean, you know, it adds a little bit of work, I mean, plus you're finishing them off, I mean, so, I mean, it adds a little bit of cost, but I mean, it's, you know, when you're talking about, you know, the potential of library, no library, what makes sense, you know, them are all things that we'd have to weigh out, really.
Now, when Brian, or maybe perhaps you did it, worked up the numbers for doing construction here at Abbey Fowler, was that including a daylight, was that
No.
with that concept?
No.
No,
Right on that slab.
No, that's something that Brian and I really haven't discussed, I mean, that was actually on the existing slab.
I see.
You know, doing an overpour, I believe, and,
Yeah, and he was gonna demolish the rest of it and
yeah,
clean that all up. It
I
was
see.
all part of what he
Okay.
quoted.
cut that,
if I
he's gonna
remember.
cut that right off.
Yeah.
and, You know,
Yeah.
you know, so I mean,
right,
I mean, personally, I like the concept of the open basement and doing it like that. but-
Yeah.
But the big problem for me with wanting to go that way is we don't have a direction for this building.
I'm with you there.
That's a concern.
If I were gonna use that location, I think I'd go to that upper tier, use that parking lot and kinda go with what Brian was, I think what he was imagining with his
Yeah.
first proposal, as opposed to trying to tie into this lot.
I mean, if I knew,
Yeah.
right, yeah,
You
that's.
don't.
that's different, but you don't, so.
Right.
I mean, this could, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know the direction of this or anything, honestly, we're trying not to, we need to go forward.
Trying to keep the two issues separate,
Keep them separate.
because they really are separate. And we've got this
Yeah.
piece of real estate, we have to deal with it, but we do need a town office. I think Bridie can kind of steer you in the direction as to what her office needs to look like.
right,
It's kind of interesting, this whole pandemic, I think we're kind of adopted this countertop service model.
very
That's,
definitely.
so it's gonna be more like going to a bank teller as opposed to what it has been historically.
Yes.
And that's gonna provide us with better security and all of that sort of thing, so I think she can probably work with you on what, they imagine that to look like.
The other thing too, we didn't really do that, but especially now, realizing this is the direction, if you go in the town office and envision the actual footprint of working space that you're using,
Yeah.
is pretty small. I mean,
Yeah, there's,
Well, it is, I mean, definitely, I mean,
Is it
And I'm
too
not-
small, right? Is it too
is
small?
that,
No, what you're using now.
no, it's spread out lengthwise and it really doesn't
function
need to
very
be.
well, does it?
There's that big space in front of
Sure.
the counter that
Okay.
we now use for maps and tax maps and tax
Right,
cards that
right.
we wouldn't necessarily, we could downsize that to a computer and say, here, if you don't have one at home, look it up.
Do you think the desks are bigger than what's needed? They seem like they're taking up a lot of square
Yeah,
footage.
you've got a 6-foot desk with a,
Big credenza.
with a bump out this way that's another 5 feet.
Right.
My desk is 5 by 3, an old iron desk, but still,
Yeah.
but still I have a desk behind it.
But I wouldn't think,
We could,
we're not
I
gonna
think,
build a new building around the furniture we have.
No.
No, I mean-
You update everything. and-
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are more like, my thought, these are like an old office desk that sat
Right.
alone, that you had all this space to put all your crap all over it. And the modern thing is, you don't do that, I mean,
Right.
you have a narrow work surface, cause they don't want you to put all your crap on it, they want it so it's working, and
yeah.
Yeah,
You kinda
and
go-
you used to have file drawers because you had, now all your files are right in that
yeah,
computer.
you don't need
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
I mean,
So the square footage, we kind of tried to guesstimate what we are currently working with, and that's where we came up with that, but,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Now, Tim, did you look at all the sites? I mean, you looked at the.
I know all the sites very well.
Do you live in Sangerville?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yes,
Oh,
yep.
okay.
I don't have my
Um,
keys, they lock me out, I'm in.
So I mean, like I said, I mean, the town garage up there,
Now, can you elaborate on the drainage problem?
well, I mean, the road elevation is quite a bit higher than actually where,
Oh.
where the floor elevation of the existing town
Oh.
garage is. So it slopes
Sure, okay.
towards where you'd be putting a building.
Huh.
That's,
That's fine.
that can be problematic. Not that it can't be taken care of, but you're talking about putting in drainage structures, anytime you're putting in a lot of drainage structures and getting everything to slope the proper way, you're spending a lot of time, and
Can we put a drain basin in that parking lot if we wanted to, and tie into the town's drainage?
in the sewer,
Yeah,
I mean, sure, I'm sure you can.
I mean, it goes by there, we should, if we wanted to put drainage in there, it seems like we could.
does that have town sewer up there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And town water.
It's
yeah,
just a matter of whether or not if you go back to the grade or where you're gonna put your building for where you're gonna put your drainage, can you actually pitch back and still actually hit that sewer, or are you gonna be down below that point, and, you know what I mean, and so you can't do that.
right.
That would be you'd have to figure
But
all that out.
the folks from the water district would probably know that. when
Well, they can tell you exactly how
They can
far
tell you
down
how
that
far,
pipe is.
yeah.
In other words, yeah, I understand what
But
you're
I
saying, you
mean-
can't.
but I mean,
run
sure.
uphill.
You'd be tying into your stormwater. I don't know do they have a stormwater system? I don't believe they do.
I think, we do.
yes,
Yeah, we do.
yes,
Section.
yes.
So
We
I'm
do.
not sure how far that goes up.
Okay.
There's one right at the corner of McFeeters, says you're going up Pleasant, it's
Yep.
right there.
Okay.
Now, I don't know where the next one is,
Right.
as you're going towards like the clinic. and-
Robinson's.
I'm not
Rob-
sure if there
Yeah.
is one.
You don't know.
I don't know of one.
I don't know.
There's one
I
underneath
don't.
this.
It
That may
probably
be the
goes
last
down the
one.
I wonder if
hill.
that's the last one and
And
it
it goes
comes
down
down
the
this
hill,
way.
Could be.
yeah,
I
probably,
believe.
Yeah.
to the main.
So I
street.
mean, a lot of times, you can run them, That's all wetland out behind it?
Well, we have had some issues with the state years ago and, but I mean, our salt pile is there and,
It's bog, I mean, you go out there and look, it's all wet, and there's no
Yeah.
clear about it.
but we seem to have gotten by with, I mean, this building is certainly gonna be less impactful than the sand pile that's out there with the,
Right,
um,
yeah.
And then when we were talking about the ball field, and you said the ball field, you know, was nice and flat. We're not talking about, I just wanna make sure that we're talking about the same thing. We're not talking about putting the building on the ball field.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay,
No,
like,
I mean,
oh,
you
that's
know,
a great
But
spot.
I mean, no, I mean,
right with
Yeah,
the
no,
fence.
no, I
Oh, good
just,
idea.
but that
it
whole
would really
site,
not be popular.
you know, from.
No, I just wanna
construction-
make sure that we're all
Right.
talking about the same thing.
From a construction standpoint, when you look at that, that's a flat site.
Sure,
You,
Okay.
no matter what, I
Sure,
mean,
okay.
that's a flat
Okay.
site. I mean,
alright, well, that's good news, I
There's
mean,
another issue with that site.
well, there's
There's-
probably a couple of.
Yeah, there's more than
Site.
one, but,
You know.
obviously, no, it's water and, so we need a well and septic, which is not a huge deal, but that, the way that ball field is right now, or the rec field, we have all come to the conclusion that with the current utilization, that road going through the center of all that activity is less than optimal and actually probably could be considered dangerous. So there has been talk about building a road around the perimeter to access the boat launch and basically do away with that center road that's bifurcating your fields.
Yeah.
That would be almost essential if we go and put the town office in over there.
Right.
Because the second we do that, there's not enough parking for them to, so it almost, I don't know if it's truly linked, but it almost is like, if we build this building, we also need a quote on a road to go around the perimeter of
Right.
that.
Right.
And I don't imagine that's gonna be a small expense, but it's something I think we're gonna have to consider.
more-
Well, we're gonna have to bring it up both ways, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's Pirate Rec is utilizing that space. And Pirate Rec used to utilize space in Parkman and space in Guilford and everything else. And they've decided that it's better for them to utilize one field. And by doing so, that's why we have the numbers that we're having in Sangerville. So I guess the residents of Sangerville would have to make that decision is, no, we don't wanna spend the extra money to move the road. Or they do, and if we don't wanna move that road, then Pirate Rec could still do some of their things there as they used to years ago, but maybe they're not gonna be able to do everything there like they would like to. Maybe they'll have to go back to using some of Guilford's fields or Parkman's fields or something.
Yeah, I mean, essentially that's, if there was no Pirate Rec, there would be no talk about
Nope,
building
you
a
never
new
move
road.
that road.
right,
I mean, so that's really what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, with that site up there at the ball field, I mean, you know, I try to envision, you'd have to set the building back, you know, a fair amount. You know, back beyond where the new, or the newest part of the parking lot is, right at the beginning.
so in relationship to this gazebo, what are you talking about? What do you?
Well, I mean, you'd be, not as far as like putting it back that, towards the gazebo,
Okay.
but more going towards where the outlet of Manhattan Pond is.
Okay,
The other side.
You know,
Okay, where the old
we-
house was.
Where the old house was,
Where the house was.
but
Well, the house is
probably
where the parking lot is.
back further, because, yeah, you're right, the house was
That's
actually
right.
right where the parking
That's
lot is.
right.
Right.
So,
Cause
you
I
know,
think the Willow was there before.
if we ever get back to a normal, you know, community where everybody's out, all the kids are down there playing and everything, if you look at that on, you know, some evenings, I mean, I don't know if the hours would lapse, you know, being open, but, you know, there's a lot of vehicles that go to that ball field. So, I mean, that's gonna jam up, you know, anything that if you put a town office there, that's gonna jam up your parking and
right,
pretty quick.
and then.
Well, they're all after, they'd be all after, pretty well except for voting. That would be the only time it would
Yeah.
come here.
That's true.
Cause they're all evening, everything to do with rec.
Yeah, and
at 5.
I do see activity there, but the kind of activity where you literally have trouble parking is when Pirate Rec has an event.
Yeah,
Weekends,
Well,
mostly.
then a couple times a year when they do the big round robins and
Right.
they're pulling everybody in from everywhere.
Yeah, there's a half dozen towns participating.
Correct.
So I mean, I don't know if that, you know, I don't know if that really plays into any of this or not, but I mean, you know, I just try to think of all the aspects of,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Well, it definitely
different
does play into
sites,
it.
you know.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
if that's gonna continue, we need another road. If we're gonna be there.
and then another thing that we had discussed, that just to sort of put in your computer, is, that right now we have porta potties up there, that if we were to do a municipal building up there, perhaps some sort of ability to have out, you know, on the backside, bathrooms that are used, you know, by the ball field, or anybody that's there, by the boaters or anything else.
Yeah, or I don't know, I've been to some of these boat launches where they have
Yeah,
cement tanks that you pump once a year. That, I'm more inclined to go that way than to tie it
yeah,
into our septic
definitely.
system.
Definitely, I mean, because then you can, you know, you can kinda contract the maintenance of that out.
Yep.
you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And no
It's
one's
just, you know, just-
contaminating your leach field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was wondering too, but worried about even the insurance aspect. Or the liability about having it all be a part of the town office building and leaving it open and.
That is another thing, once we, you know, we have complete immunity up there as long as it's recreational. But when you move the town office in there, we might have to,
Well, it's still rec.
no, it's not. The liabilities in this location are different than the liabilities in that location.
When somebody walks in.
Now, we might have to do some
Yeah, but
deep
you're thinking
work.
about a location, it's not, just because you put the town office up there, doesn't mean that that's no longer a rec field.
No, a portion of it certainly would be, but a portion of it is no longer.
Right.
So
But,
you're saying if there's an accident between a town office, a personship in the town office and somebody from rec, the liability is different than
It
if
could
two rec.
conceivably be. There's almost no liability for anybody who's actually recreating. But if, while someone was recreating, they somehow got tangled up in our municipal business, then the liability is totally different.
what, are there any other options? Are we thinking, are we sort of buttonholing ourselves into those?
Don't have a
Just-
lot of real estate, I mean, really, I guess there's three options. I mean,
We have some woodlots if you, if you want to
Out in the-
head for the boonies.
we
You have a lot of
we actually,
land.
that piece of property that the garage is on goes all the way through to McFeeters.
Yeah, I drove that today, trying to figure out where exactly that comes out.
Where the ATV sign is.
Oh, so it's a little further down,
Oh, yeah, it's
after the
back
You know,
bar.
when you're going into
Yeah,
Old
yeah.
Foxcroft
Oh,
and they've
okay.
got their sand pile and all those public works equipment
Yeah.
on the right-hand side.
Oh, yes.
And in fact, almost every resident there, that road just slopes down and they just filled it and built all those buildings. We would have to do something like that up there if we were gonna go there, but we do own that property.
Yeah.
And I do think there's city water and sewer up there. I think it terminates right about where our property is.
Yeah, I think it terminates at
At your
Thomas
road.
Road. Yeah.
Yeah, it does
So,
right there.
yeah.
But we
But-
haven't
I mean,
really
it's the
seriously
same
explored
deal.
that, I mean, we just.
Right.
Same deal, you keep going down the avenue, we own the property there.
And you have deeded access. and-
Where? Where?
And-
All the way to Lemmy's. That lot goes around that house beside the town garage and goes down the avenue and then it goes around the next house. And
Really?
it goes down, oh yeah, it goes all the way to Lemmy's.
Oh.
No kidding, I didn't know that.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
huge chunk of property.
But is that all wetland back there?
Oh
you
yeah, it's
think?
all crap.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember we went out
It's
there.
unusable.
But I
It
mean,
dropped
it's coming-
away, it
yeah,
dropped
50 acres of
away.
unusable
They
Yeah,
were-
but
Yeah.
you can fix it, it ain't like it's,
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
That-
I
that
guess
was
with no shortage of space, anyway, I mean, it's not like,
that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
right.
I mean,
Right.
one of the side benefits, and not that you can't clean it up, but I would love to just get that whole thing cleaned up over there.
Right.
And we should do that regardless of whether we build there or not, but.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, then, I mean, we.
You know, I mean, does it make sense to, you know, I mean, you get into a project like that, I mean, does it make sense to demo that whole thing? You
Yeah.
know, And, you know, put a couple service bays off the back, off facing the back, so that way they're not coming out the front towards the road.
I mean,
You know, as far as
the only
the,
thing you got's a loader and a backhoe.
you know, so I mean, you got them two items, I mean, you know.
Yeah, mean, it's
don't know.
not much of a building. I mean,
Right,
it is not well built.
Well, I mean, it's been, you know, it's been fixed up and fixed up and
Right,
fixed up
and
and fixed
added
up.
on and-
Well, it's
yeah.
cobbed, this
It's
is the
cobbed together,
original,
right, that's
we built
exactly-
this, and then,
Yeah.
we made 2 more bays, or, I don't even know the numbers, if it's
Yeah.
1 more bay, then it's 2, or if it's 2, then
I'm
it's
not sure
1.
which
and
Yeah,
Then we
Right.
put the addition off the back, I mean,
yeah.
There's no question in terms of appearance, if you tied those 2 uses together and created one brand new facility,
Yeah,
it would be awesome.
It would be,
The sticker shock might
yeah.
knock you over. I'm thinking of community, probably, what are some of the towns, you said you've done some towns?
Herman,
Oh,
I was
okay,
involved with that was with Bowman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of them, and, let me think, cause it's been 20 years, you know.
Levant's got a fairly new looking one, Winthrop, they tied in the fire department and
Yeah,
all
I
the
mean,
municipal.
they're all,
Have you seen that facility?
they're all
Unbelievable.
kind of doing that, you know, they've all kind of, done that.
Yeah,
Incorporated their, you know, the fire department in with their town office and.
and police in
You know,
some
police,
cases.
yeah, and they just kinda keep everything, you know, I think, Herman was Penobscot County Sheriff's Department is also there, along with their fire department,
Wow.
yeah.
Herman's office doesn't look real big.
It's not real big, but, you know, it's, you know, very modern, I mean, it was quite a price tag.
Yeah, was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. You know, I mean, what kind of a budget, I mean, are we looking at? I mean, do we wanna stay under $500,000 on this? I mean, you know, do
Yes.
we wanna
Yes.
cap it?
Yes.
I mean, you know,
Well, I mean, what about parking?
2 years ago,
You know what
2 years
parking
ago,
is.
we voted to not have a town manager anymore. I mean, that's my other side is, you know, it's great for Herman and everybody to build all these.
well,
extravagant
right, but I
buildings,
mean, we're heading in a
We're
different
not
direction.
there.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
You know,
We're more like Parkman than we are Herman.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And you know what Parkman is.
you know, yeah, not much.
Right. So,
I mean, so
and they're getting by fine.
Yeah.
Or at least that's the impression I get, I don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe somewhere between those 2.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're kind of envisioning.
You know, I mean, you know, I mean, you can get a fairly nice facility for probably 350, 400,000. I mean, you know, I mean, that's, but I'm talking, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm talking a building that size with, you know, a nice paved parking lot and no, you know, no issues down the road. I mean, very energy efficient, you know, maybe even a little bit bigger than that, but, if you don't need it, I mean, you know, we can work it up and see where we're at, you know?
I think that's,
I mean, one of the things that I've been shocked by is that this whole COVID-19 thing is really not helped pricing at all, not helped building materials for whatever reason, just not come down over the last 10 years. They just keep going up and up and up and up, you know? And it goes down to everything. I mean, it just everything that you think of in a building. I mean, you know, whether it be just the framing materials or all your finished materials, everything just keeps going up and,
Yeah.
I don't really see the reason for it, but,
well, I think that's, yeah, I guess if maybe I don't know, an A, B, and a C, or an
Yeah,
A and a B. And if you're open to kind of cruising those 2 spots on your own and
yeah, I mean,
if, say, you know, if you, like Jody said, if you see something like this, to me, it's just a deal killer, then we would love to know that.
Right, right.
100%.
right,
My biggest thing, my concern is we start going much over 300,000, it's gonna be a hard push,
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough sell.
you know?
Um,
Because you're at the point, you're gonna hear everybody in the brother say, I'll fix what you got.
Right, right.
Or slap a Band-Aid on it and wait till it
Which-
calms down.
but I mean, if they know that this, you know, I believe you shared with me, you know, this here was gonna cost, you know.
Oh,
You
Well,
know,
but the problem is you have too many people that don't necessarily agree with, you know, the experts that's looked at it. Oh, it's not that bad, it's been that way,
Yeah, yeah.
it'll last another 50 years. Nobody,
it's not gonna fall down,
it's
you
not
know,
gonna
all of
fall
these
down.
things.
That's what we're up against.
we could literally bring
and-
a dozen engineers in here, and if every one of them said the same thing, you will still have
They
a
won't
group of
believe it.
people that say, none of those guys know what they're talking about.
They don't know what they're talking about. They don't have
So
enough
that- I mean-
on
There's
boots
no
on the
arguing
ground
with that.
experience.
No,
They're
yeah,
just an
there's nothing you can do
engineer.
about
They're just a
Yeah.
PE.
That
you
thing's
know.
built like a castle, let's
They're
not go
too
anywhere.
young, they
Yeah, they're
don't
too
know.
young, they don't know what they're talking about. And so, we're up against that.
But what we do know for sure is over the last 20 years, we spent over $400,000 to have what we have today.
Right, what
And-
you're looking at.
And the insurance company doesn't want to insure us based on what we currently have, so
Right.
it
Yeah.
needs to be addressed,
We're
it's
at
not
an-
going away.
Yeah, we're at an impasse.
Well, I
so-
mean, and I think that's, that's the only way to present it is, the cost that it's cost over whatever,
We tried that. It's only $5 a month every person who lives here over the last 20 years, and that's all.
Yeah, no, that's the kind of stuff you get.
That's seriously. We just gotta figure out a way to do it and make it cost effective
Right.
and present
I
it in a
mean,
way.
you know, I
to
mean,
move forward.
I think we can get it down there, I mean, it's,
Let's shoot for something between Parkman and Herman.
you know what I mean?
Or Parkman and
Yeah, Parkman and Abbott,
Willimantic.
yeah. Blanchard. But I mean, yeah, that's,
Well, I mean, I don't want a junk building and I don't want it to sound that way.
No,
Well,
no, and
well,
you're
I
not
mean,
gonna,
A
you're.
decent building,
we don't build our roads that way.
That's not what they're gonna.
but we don't need a lot of the frills, I guess is the way.
Right, but it is interesting, I mean, I don't know, I did look at that, but there's no community, is there a community room? Oh, okay, there, just for voting and things that I didn't sort of think about, but yeah, you gotta have.
This footprint is kind of, I think, minimum. Just in terms of community room, you wouldn't want less than what we have. On
Right.
voting day, this can be pretty busy. We're not gonna do, we don't have.
Which, what's on here is smaller than what's here
It
right
is,
now.
it is, it's
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is with this
You
room,
know.
you can make this room 5 times bigger, but this room wasn't very busy because you're only getting that many people in here.
Right, well, and it works,
And now with
That's what I'm saying.
separation, you're getting that number.
Correct.
yeah.
Um,
The town meetings, we have no illusion of having them,
right,
they'll either be at the school or the church or the fire department.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, which I mean, as far as parking goes, I mean, that's gonna stay the same, so.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um,
We do want modern tech, we want it all wired and,
Yeah,
I think we imagined security systems, cameras to kind of watch what's going on.
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, and that's the difference, between, I mean, sometimes that's the difference between being under 250 and being over 300.
Yep,
I mean, you start throwing a security system in, well, security system, you could be $50,000 easily, in a security system, I mean, with, full cameras and,
yep.
you know.
And that would be something we'd have to decide on.
So, I mean, this is all stuff that I'd have to price out, obviously.
Okay.
Prices change, it seems like on a daily basis, but, yeah, so,
Just so you know, the sequencing, if we land on an idea or a proposal that the three of us can endorse, the next step is we have to present this at a town meeting.
right,
And when we can legally have one,
We're there.
we'll do it.
yeah.
And then the
Well,
town,
you have to be under 50,
Parkman had theirs last night.
I know, but
they were under 50.
I bet they were.
But I think it's coming, hopefully, but that's we're not ready to present anyway, so,
yeah, we really need to nail down where is gonna be the ideal place
Right.
to put this, and then, because they're two different, if we're looking at those two locations, and we're not looking at the Abbey Fowler location, then they're two different,
and it's
Scenarios.
conceivable that we could get a green light on a new building,
Yeah,
and then
and-
they wanna vote where they're gonna put it.
yeah, but problem is the quotes would be different, one thing.
Correct.
they'd be
Well,
so
I mean, what
different.
did Brian give you for a number to do one here?
It was below 4, but it was wasn't it like,
321?
was it?
Yeah.
I was thinking 3.5, but I don't,
Yeah.
I've got the email, but it was in
Yeah.
there, I'll send it to you,
Yeah.
but.
Well, I mean, I can get that from Brian anyway, that's no big deal.
And that included the complete demolition of that
Right,
building,
right.
the complete build, hand us the keys.
It's a hell of a lot more pavement up there.
And pavement.
Paving,
There's a lot more
And-
money to do that than
we would also
start scratch somewhere else.
own the
A lot.
property once again.
What do you mean? I'm not sure, what are you saying?
To take that and demo that building and remove all that concrete and repave that entire parking lot, that's a lot to begin with.
Okay, so
You're not-
you're anticipating you could do this out the ball field for less than what that project
I
would?
would, yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
a huge expense.
Yeah, okay, and I guess that's why we
Well,
said,
because you're starting fresh down there.
right,
That's clean slate.
Yep.
Unless, of course, you run into stuff that, you know, is buried behind that old house or whatever.
The only
We
two
don't-
things
we
that I
don't
know
know.
down there that nobody knows where they are is there's a well on that side and there's a septic on that side. So somewhere around there's 1,000-gallon concrete
Right.
septic tank and a leach field and all that.
So, I mean, you know, obviously, they'd be taking that out and,
if you can find it.
yeah, if you can find it, well, I'm sure you'd find
You're
it.
gonna come across.
Yeah, you'll come across it, all right?
so-
It might be, I might be able to do some research and find
You should.
They
a
tried,
plan.
You
they
did?
tried before.
You did,
Who did?
Supposedly the town manager did when we bought it, the fire department.
They probably just ran a pipe down to the river.
No, it's
Yeah.
legitimately, from everything I understand, it was a,
It was permitted,
yeah.
we should
And
know
they
There's
that.
still
gotta
could-
be-
and they
there's
still
gotta be
couldn't find
paperwork
it.
on then.
The bigger thing up there is the road, and that's
Yeah.
really not your problem, we might come to you and say, how much to build a road, but that's,
And also sort of, you know, the grand plan, if you were saying, you know, if you can sort of see where that all should go, obviously, we're open for a hearing.
I just don't, if it costs $100,000 to build a road, I don't know that it would, but let's just go, do you think the town would ever vote to build that road, or would they say, sorry, you're gonna have to downsize recreation a little bit?
No,
Yeah.
That's if I had to bet, I would
Right.
bet they'd say no.
right.
and if you put the town office back further, do you even still have room in
Oh,
there?
yeah, there's a lot of.
Yeah, there's
plenty of room.
Quite a bit of room between the existing parking lot right at the beginning, where the house at and where the river is. You know, the depth of that's,
If you look on Google Earth, you realize
Yeah.
that the size of that parking lot that's bigger than your building would be.
Yeah,
And you could put a bunch of those out
the
there.
plus side of that side up there is, well, besides it being already flat, there's a clean slate there, you can also face the building south. And anytime you face the building south is, you know, I don't understand these people that wanna put them on the north side of the mountain and, you know, and then they freeze to death all winter long and the heating bills, you know, thousands of
The
dollars.
snow never melts.
Makes a big difference.
Exactly, it truly does, it makes a huge difference if you
Yeah.
face the building south.
Sure.
You're also on the north side of the ball field area, which is wide open to the south. So, I mean, you're gonna get that, you know,
Yeah.
savings in heating during the winter time. It's gonna actually feel a lot more warmer, you know. You wouldn't think so, but it does make a big difference. You know, that's one of the plus sides to that. Now, like I said, the town garage, obviously that turns into a rehabilitation, you know, with a new addition.
It's almost kind of an Abbey
More of a
Fowler
demo,
kind
a
of
demolition.
project. It's a
Right,
demo,
I
you get some-
mean, these two sites are similar in that
Right.
aspect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, this one's probably a little bit easier to, well, it's probably a little bit easier to dispose of, than the other one.
Why do you say that?
Well, cause normally with a wooden structure like that, you'd take dumpsters and you'd actually throw it in dumpsters and haul it all off and that gets costly.
Oh,
Basically you crush it up with an excavator and you throw it in a dumpster and you know, that one there, obviously you got the windows, the metal, you know, there is still quite a bit of stuff that's gotta go in the dumpsters in that one there as well. But a lot of that's stone, brick, you know, I mean, it's all masonry. You basically, you bury it,
oh, you bury it, uh-huh.
Yep.
Even concrete?
concrete, yeah,
Not on site?
not on site.
Oh, okay.
No, not on site, you actually haul
Hazardous
it all off,
material when it leaves site.
you actually haul it all off.
And
And you
it's
just bury
cheaper to
It's
bury
actually cheaper, yeah, it is cheaper,
And
cheaper to do that than it is to actually haul it off through a waste disposal company.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Wow.
From our perspective, because we own the trucks and, you
right,
know.
okay.
We have disposal sites that we can actually,
Okay,
it
gotcha,
doesn't really cost us
I
anything,
see.
so,
uh-huh,
yeah.
that's, yeah, that's all good information,
Well, that's why we need your help.
So.
That's right.
um,
right, yeah,
To me, it's a matter of, you know, if the townspeople wanna move it down to the ball field, or stay in town here somewhere.
I mean, it almost seems like I mean, it's a beautiful spot where the ball field is, I mean, it's just a really nice area.
I think so too.
And I do think as far as engaging the town, as far as getting the town behind it, you've got a lot of families, young families that, you know, have familiarity with the ball field, and it's, okay, we're leaving this building, but we're going up there, and, you know, that, I think we may be able to get a
The
better.
gazebo has had a really
That's right.
positive, kind of reception, everybody has enjoyed,
The
you know, there's
gazebo, yeah.
events there, the concerts are really well received. I think moving the town's center there
Mm-hmm.
would, I mean, you're always gonna have a few people that, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it probably has a better shot at passing in that direction.
Yeah, I think so too. So, you know, and it sounds like that's gonna be the cleanest, quickest way to
Yeah.
get to what our goal is.
I don't know what city water and sewer's worth, I mean, in terms of ease of construction and
You
long-term
know,
costs. and-
Especially for a municipal building.
Yeah.
The only problems you run into with a well is if you hit bad water. Then you're talking a whole filtration system.
Well,
Then you all of a sudden you've gotta increase your footprint because you have to have room to put that, and they take up a lot of room.
We're gonna go well up there.
So,
Somewhere there is
There's
what's
two
up?
up there. There's one that we currently have that's for, on the rec
Oh.
side.
Yeah, it's right between the building and
Yeah.
the
really?
dugout,
They've got a well up there.
yeah.
Oh,
And then there's another
so it'd
one.
be a matter of just
So
having.
we can tie into that one if we want to.
Possibly.
It's all our well, so.
I'm not sure what it is. I know it's
Right.
there.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how they drilled it, if they, you know, what the spec was or what it was getting out of it, but.
no idea how old it is.
But you
Might have to
live
cap.
over that way, as people
You said it's
don't have a
right,
problem with their
Where is it?
wells.
By
I
the
mean,
cook shack.
We have hard water.
just
Yeah.
to drive in right
Yeah,
down
so
the
what?
left.
Yeah,
I'm not-
Yeah, it's
I
right
mean,
there somewhere.
No, we have,
Oh,
well, it
I
never
can't remember
goes,
exactly where it is.
knock on wood goes dry or anything, no problems that way.
And it's not like this, you know,
Right,
you get 6 showers every morning, that's not what it
right.
is.
No.
I mean, you're talking a well and a septic up there, but you don't have to do any demo.
right,
Right.
right,
Right.
The demo's gonna cost way more than a well and a septic.
yeah.
We also have free internet up here, on that Avenue Road, which we're probably not gonna get out there. Cause I don't think he ran that fiber optic out that road.
Yeah, he's up
Criminals.
there.
I think there is fiber that goes over.
Is it out there?
Oh, yeah, it goes in by that.
Well, then we may
Then
still be
we'll-
covered.
We should.
Oh, we will be.
We let them put a station by the
Yeah.
Public Works building there. And the agreement was that we would have free internet.
Yeah.
So
So I didn't know we went up 23.
hopefully
good.
we
I
can,
think he goes to the top of the hill. I'm not sure. Does he go as far as your house? Can't remember.
I don't remember. I thought that Brian had fiber run all the way to his office.
huh,
Because we use a lot of data. I mean, when you start tossing plans around that are, you know, big sets of plans,
right.
you gotta have a lot of data to download everything and, you know, but I mean, I can't remember what the guy told me, if there was fiber running by the house, but I couldn't tie into it or something, or I don't know. But internet's been an issue with any further out that way has been an issue.
We don't have a lot of bandwidth demand, it's just would be nice
Yeah.
if, what's the name of the company?
Premium.
Premium.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they are there.
I know Premium Choice has done a lot down 23, I mean, as far as, you know, upgrading the lines and stuff like that, so I mean, you know, they would be able to tell you how far out fiber goes and everything, I'm pretty sure they ran the lines.
It's not a deal killer. It's just,
Right.
we have to have internet.
Yeah. Be nice to keep it for free.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Free is always good.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, so I mean, down there, I mean, we talking parking lot lighting and stuff like that, I mean, you know.
Yeah,
Well, whatever you would normally do for
Yeah.
this type of, for what.
Well, I mean, typically, I mean, you'd have, light poles out there, I mean, and.
Yep, I would think so.
But I mean, I don't think we don't need to do it for an extravagant amount of parking spots either though.
Right?
No, it's,
No, I mean, you'd probably only be talking a couple light poles, I mean, with the lighting that they have these days, I mean, these new LED lights just broadcast such an area, I mean, you put two of them out there and I mean, you'd be covered.
Right.
You know, I mean, so, I mean, I just,
and the setback from the inlet to Manhattan, it would be what, do you know offhand?
I'm
As far
not,
as building?
you know, I'm not sure what it would have to be off from that.
But there's plenty of room.
There's a lot of room up there.
Yeah, I looked at it once.
It's-
You know, there's,
Regular
there's all
100
kinds
feet.
of room up there for a building.
you
Yeah.
could
I
do
mean, it's well.
3
over
times the
that.
size if
Okay.
we need.
You know, and I mean, you could actually slide it, I mean, you know, you could slide it away from 23 and back towards the gazebo.
Mm.
You know, there's plenty of room right there.
Okay.
In that small corner to put a building in the parking lot and,
Yep,
you
yep.
know.
If you go on Google Map and you look at that and just kinda go with the 100-foot rule,
Yeah,
it's scary how much land up through there that
Yeah.
we're not utilizing.
Yeah, those,
There's a lot.
even if we ever did want to put a road, there's plenty of room for a road that went
We can do this in
behind.
the road and there's still not gonna be an issue.
wow, well, that's good. I think it'd be a good use of that land.
So I guess, what are the next steps? How do you think this should proceed?
Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, I've got to, so, I mean, we wanna stick with this 30 by 38.
Not necessarily,
No, we're not stuck with it.
No,
okay, no.
We started smaller.
no.
Yeah, I saw the first one. I think I saw the first one. It was a little bit smaller.
You know, unfortunately, you know how it's like getting going, it's, okay, where do we start? So it's like, okay, let's get something on paper. And unfortunately, sometimes you end up spending money on something like that, you know, you end up scrapping in the end. So
Yeah, we
we're
didn't
not-
even
To me,
pick
some
where
of
the
this has
walls
got a
are.
lot of wasted space
Yeah.
that
And
if you
we're-
rearrange things, you're
Yeah,
gonna get smaller again.
We are totally not married to that. That was just trying to start
Yeah.
putting things on paper. And, you know, obviously, if if you see things that, or you want to lay it out differently, we're open for that, I would say.
Well,
Would
yeah.
you?
Even the configuration, the
Yeah.
entrance, and all of that,
Yeah,
none of
yeah,
that we had
yeah.
any input on, it was
Right,
just a
right.
starting point, so.
You know, I mean, municipal entrances should always be, some form of a covered entrance.
Okay,
No
that
matter
makes
what.
sense.
You should always try to
Sure.
get falling snow and ice away from anybody.
Yes,
You know, so I mean,
that's a good point.
yeah, I mean, there's, one of the things that I did for Greenway Equipment when they moved up to the old main trailer building down in Herman was they gave me the plans, the layout of their offices and everything. And I just shook my head and I'm like, you're not gonna like this. I'm like, so I snapped all the lines, we got the whole place clean slate. Snapped all the lines on the floor and I got the owners in there and I says, look at your offices.
Mm-hmm,
I said, you're not gonna like this. I said, that's how big they are. And they ended up moving everything
Yeah.
and changing everything. You know, so I mean, one of the big things we gotta find is mechanical space for this, you know. And,
If you're willing to do it, I think we would love it if you just say, here's how I would do it.
yeah,
And here's how big it needs to be, in my opinion, and send it to us.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that would be a great place to
yeah,
start.
because we don't want to hem you into that and
No.
and spend any time.
well, no, but I
you
mean,
know,
this
if
is
you're-
this is a start. I mean, you know, as far as, you know,
Yeah, I
somebody
mean-
obviously had an idea with this, I mean, and,
Just remember, we only got 2.5 people.
yeah, so I
That's
mean.
it. I mean, there ain't,
Right,
you
but.
don't need a lot.
You know, just sort of a list of the things that we definitely need, and then, you know, tweaking the size of what that
Right.
is.
And like I said, I'd like to see the difference between with a 5-foot frost wall by making the footprint bigger to make enough room for your mechanics, your storage and everything, and
Or
or
a
shorten
basement.
it back up and go into a full basement.
Right.
And seeing what that would actually do for cost.
You know, I mean, you're, when you switch from a slab to a frost wall situation, you know, you probably add 20,000. the cost of the project.
On the same footprint.
On the same footprint, to go from just a floating slab with a haunch slab to one with frost walls for a thermal break. The difference is you're gonna save money on your frost wall protection.
Right.
Because you can get your thermal break and you can keep your radiant heat in,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
so your heating savings are gonna save you, money over the long run.
right,
So,
yeah, I mean,
I always try to look for them savings as to, you know, is it gonna pay for itself down the road?
right, we don't wanna be in a situation where 10 years from now, we're saying, you know, or the board then saying, you know, geez, they didn't look ahead, why didn't they build it right?
Right.
We wanna build
Right,
it.
I'm not looking at it that way, I'm looking at it as, if we build it the right way with a 5-foot frost wall,
Right,
okay, now she wants, say she needs 12 by 12 for storage, you want 10 by 12 for mechanics, or whatever, this building keeps getting bigger. But if we, instead, so we look at it that way, or we say, alright, if we build this with a full foundation, and with a basement,
Make it
now the
smaller.
mechanics goes down cellar, that storage can go down cellar, now we're gonna make that building smaller.
Right,
We don't need that same footprint once
Exactly.
we do that.
exactly.
So I understand there's a $15,000
But,
on the same footprint, but once we start cutting this back, we shouldn't, I don't think we're gonna be that much different.
keep in mind, when you throw a basement in there, now you need a staircase.
Sure.
yeah,
You know,
that
so-
takes up room,
so that
a
takes up room.
lot
Yeah,
of
It
room.
does,
Yeah.
it takes up a lot more room than a mechanical
And
space,
you
Yeah.
bump into code,
you know,
and
yeah,
Yeah,
it
and then
does. I mean,
You're
these,
hauling stuff downstairs.
so just to give you an idea, I mean, a decent mechanical
Better than
space
you,
would
though.
be 6 by 8,
Yeah.
you know, staircase, I mean, you're talking 4 feet wide by
8.
12. You actually need 12, you're gonna lose 12 feet on your, you know, if you figure the depth of it. By the time you clear your head clearance at the bottom of your staircase, you're gonna be chewing up an area of 4 by 12. So you're swapping mechanical space for a staircase.
And then
I
you're
mean,
in a situation,
Then you got your basement, I mean,
You get
you
your
know,
storage
then you've
area.
got
All your
the,
record retainment.
you know, what do you do? Then you're not doing concrete unless you're doing stress panels and pouring concrete over the stress panels for your ground floor.
right, no, actually, you're actually building a complete floor system,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. So, you know, so you gotta weigh it all up.
yeah, I mean.
Right.
And
I don't know
if
what it's
we,
gonna be.
and if we have the real estate, you know what I'm saying? If we're not constrained by the footprint.
no, our footprint can be as
per se.
big as we want.
Right,
yeah.
right,
It's just dollars and cents. It's
right,
all
no, right,
The equipment room is really, the only thing that would really be in that would be, well, a hot water tank. No, cause you'd heat your hot water with the same thing that did your radiant heat, right?
Yeah, I would do an on-demand,
Right.
you know, I mean, especially with the amount of use, I mean, if you're only gonna have a couple people, I mean,
Yep.
you know.
yep,
The only issue I run into with on-demand, cabinet style boilers, they're so energy efficient, and the faucets that everybody had, that they put out these days are so efficient, they got these super filter screens in them, and the gallons per minute on them are so fine that it doesn't trip the flow switch on the boiler, so you never have hot water in your
Right,
sinks.
right, cause it's
by
just
the time
trickling
you're
out.
done
Exactly.
washing your hands, there's still no hot water.
You still have the hot water. I hear my mother-in-law has that problem. I went over to her house, I said, I'm gonna fix this right now. I ripped out all of her screens.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
I took them all and ripped them all out. I said,
It's
there.
funny, I did that when my kids moved in.
But that tool is not that big, is it?
No, I mean, it's 2 feet, it's probably 2 feet wide, 3 feet tall.
Yeah, so it's.
Sticks
like a-
out 16 inches
Yeah.
probably. I mean, obviously different sizes for, you know, different uses, I mean, but, you know, so I mean, you're talking a room for electrical and, mechanical.
Yeah, it's not gonna
You
have
know,
to be very big.
No, I mean, 6 by 8 will do it,
Yeah.
you know.
Hey,
If
what did
that, I mean, you know, if that, I
Did you
mean,
find out about a safe?
Well, I called Parkman, they don't have a safe.
Okay, so-
They built a room with fire retardant drywall and called it good.
Okay.
They don't have to do that.
But I was just curious if there was a statute.
Right.
That's
I,
not-
I looked, I
safe.
couldn't
Yeah.
find a statute, so I called Parkman and said, well, what do you do? And,
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, typically like a, you know, a fireproof room is actually two layers of 5/8 drywall. You
'Cause
know,
we have a brick-
or masonry.
Cause we have a
Wow.
brick vault right now, and they were saying, well, you know, that might be expensive if you're,
Yeah, if we're gonna move it or
What is
replicate
it,
it.
brick? Did you
it's
say?
brick, that
Oh,
vault
but with
is
a nice
brick
safe door on it.
with a safe door on
So
it.
we could take the safe door and build a new one. Good
We
one.
could, I guess, yeah.
See, I mean, you could actually go with, you know, and I would do all commercial grade doors, hardware,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, windows, I certainly wouldn't go with cheap vinyl replace, you know, windows, I mean, you know, like I said, you know, there's a, you know, there's a difference on building construction when you do things commercially versus residential, you
Right.
know. You know, so I mean,
We run into this kind of thing too when we're doing roads. you
Right.
know.
Yep.
We can't turn our roads into I-95, but we've all kind of taken the approach that it's better to spend a little more
Yeah.
and get more life out of that investment. And so we would try to approach this building, I think, probably in the same mindset.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
same
mean, what
deal, we
type,
can't afford the Cadillac, but we don't want a Hugo.
Right.
well, no, but I mean, you
Find
know,
that.
but I mean, you know, what kind of flooring are we looking at? I mean, are we looking at,
No carpet,
you don't want carpet?
no.
No, radiant heat, tile. I mean, you know,
Tile.
probably vinyl tile or.
You know, I mean, different rooms, I mean, I've done a lot of these where different rooms have different types of flooring. I mean, entryways should be tile, you know.
Or the new epoxy, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are,
That's
I've
great.
seen that. Have you done many of those?
The epoxy floors, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've got some of those that work on old wooden floors that were put in the 80s and have never cracked. And that's running power equipment right beside them all the time and floors
Yeah.
moving.
But a good architectural tile will last for 50 years in that building.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, conference rooms are typically, believe it or not, are typically carpet tile.
Yeah.
Just for
I can see that,
noise, just
Well-
for,
They're usually a 2x2 carpet tile, you know, not too much different than this,
Right.
you know, and,
Acoustically, it makes a big difference.
yes, it does,
Yeah.
you know.
That's
If you
fine.
make every surface in a room all hard, I mean, you do hardwood floors and drywall ceilings and everything's drywall, I mean, it echoes.
yeah.
Um,
And the 2x2s, you can pull out one if
Oh,
it's
that's just it.
damaged. It's really, I'm familiar with those products.
Yeah, I mean, and they work well on Radiant. There's certain products that, you know, work well with Radiant, you know, and tile is one of them. I mean, the carpet tiles, certain carpet tiles work. You know, they got the LVT, luxury vinyl tiles, look more like a hardwood floor. I mean, a lot of places are using that. Some are a little costly, you know, so I mean,
I guess why I said no carpet, I'm looking for just durability.
yeah.
But if you
Well,
can
it's
take,
not that
but if you
bad.
can take a 2x2
Yeah, yeah.
square out and replace it, then,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why you try to keep your foot traffic from the outdoors, you know, as far as for the public, all tile. You know, conference rooms, you know, like I said, you could do a 2x2 carpet tile in there. Probably do,
If we keep them separate,
yeah,
because you're never gonna
Like I
have
say,
all
it's
that
just the
muddy
dust and
traffic
the
in your
germs
office
and-
again.
Right.
yeah, well, that's just
The
it.
germs and the crud and
right,
Yeah.
that's the other thing, the bacteria of the carpet.
true.
I mean, you don't have the cleaning like we, you know,
I know.
that's
And-
the other thing about staying away from carpet.
I've seen a lot of places go VCT, but it's, to me, it's cheap, it's more like a school, it's, you
Yeah.
know, it's, you know.
Yeah.
You can go that route to save money, but,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, if you want a modern facility that looks nice, I mean, fees into the public, I mean, LVTs is the way to go, I mean, you can get that hardwood feeling and it's a very durable tile.
And we're not buying that much of it.
No,
Right,
It's not like we're doing a hospital.
No.
At the end of the day, this project, you're gonna have X amount of cost to put the building up, and then all these extras, this is gonna be an added. So once we see the whole picture, we can say, we gotta shave a little bit, or no, we're okay. And that's where.
Yeah,
as far as
until we
I'm
know
concerned,
that, we
that's
can't really.
Where
yep.
the security system is gonna be a way of measure, or, you
Right.
know, do
Or
we
we're just
spend
gonna
it
hang some
here, or do we
cameras.
spend it there, or
Yeah.
what other options do we have?
Well, I think if, I guess it really wouldn't make that much of a difference, but location wise, I mean, probably all the three locations are about the same as far as security goes,
Mm,
you know,
mm.
so.
I mean, at the end of the day, when you see the total number, we're just gonna have to see that and then go from there, and then look at what we got and what we can do.
Well, the
Yep,
insurance
if we're
company's
tickets.
asking for security, so,
Oh, is that right? Oh, well.
Of some-
ah,
So I mean, is the
of some
insurance,
sort.
Some sort.
Yeah.
so is the insurance company asking for sprinklers or anything like that?
I think we have to do that for code, don't
No,
We,
we? We don't?
no.
no, we have
Because
sprinklers.
I've gotta look at that, because,
We was told that's why they're in here, because they said by code we had to.
well, it depends on the use of the building.
Okay.
Now, you got a library here,
Oh.
that might make the difference.
Ah.
You don't have a library.
Aha,
We used to have poker night.
I've gotta ask that question.
that's
because,
a good question.
What
Well,
about,
and that could've been back in the day when we were pushing for an elevator and doing
Sure.
everything in the
If
upstairs.
you were ever gonna use the upstairs, you were gonna have to have a sprinkler system.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
and
Yeah.
it's, we do, but
um,
what about public restrooms?
sprinkler would be a huge problem down there. That'd be
Yeah.
some big money,
Yeah.
and then
So
you're
that's
talking, then you're
something we need
talking,
to know.
then you're talking full basement. At
Yeah.
that point, you're talking a full basement, because then you have to have storage tanks for water, you have to
Oh,
have,
jeez, forget that.
yeah, you're talking big money to move it, to put a building down there if it requires sprinkler.
Town of Lauderdale's had the bridge.
Sprinkler is funny,
Ponds down over the hill,
yeah.
sorry.
Sprinklers are, they just blow my mind as to what they require and what they don't require. We did an addition over Charleston Church, and you would think that place would be full sprinkler system and everything. There's no fire alarm system in that building, and there is no sprinkler system in that building.
Whoa.
How they get around that, I don't know. But I asked the question, I even called Maine Fire Protection, and I
Wow,
don't know how they get around it.
So we would have to know definitively whether we need.
Right.
My initial response to that is, I don't believe it needs a sprinkler system. Does it need a fire alarm panel? I'm pretty sure it does. So,
Okay.
them are the things that'll add cost to
yeah,
the building is, nickels and dimes compared to all this other stuff. You start adding in, if you need a full sprinkler system, fire alarm panel, all that stuff costs a lot of money.
I'm pretty sure that if we stay here, the fire alarm, not the fire alarms, but the sprinklers will probably have to be updated.
Why?
Well, they're kind of old if you're starting to look
Now,
for things
Brian,
that are an Arctic code.
Alright.
you asked about,
like 40
public
years.
bathrooms? Public bathrooms, is that what you said?
That's what I asked, yeah.
Oh. You mean for people to be able to walk in,
If we don't have a library, I don't see why we would need one.
except that you've got a conference, I mean, what are we talking?
Yeah, that's true. If you haven't, cause you're gonna need at least
Community
one.
room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, the design of this right now, it works.
Yeah. I guess the question is, would you need more than one bathroom?
right, that's,
I mean,
Yeah.
you've got 2.5 people here, and the occasional person registering their car. When you have a select board meeting, you might have 25 people here, and then you would need, but during the day, would you need more than one bathroom? I can't
I don't know.
I can't imagine that you would. Particularly if you didn't have a library. And we've got 2 big bathrooms in this hallway now.
Well, I'm just thinking, with COVID, I've locked the bathrooms.
You,
We're only letting one person in the
Right,
building at a time,
Right.
so right now, we don't really need them, but going forward, do we need them?
yeah, I don't know that we would need the expense of 2 full bathrooms. They always have to be handicap accessible.
These are all codes.
That's what I'm asking, what's the code say?
That's what I'm saying.
Right, well,
I mean,
I
you're
don't
gonna
know
And,
that.
and handicap bathrooms are required minimum size.
Sure.
And it's a pain in the neck, because they've increased the size again.
Oh.
In 2014, they increased the size.
So if we can get away with one,
Try keeping
That's
up
good.
with all this stuff, because they don't just come out and tell you this stuff.
Well, at the end of the day,
You know,
your bathroom isn't, there, it's gonna depend on how many people you're having access your building.
right.
So if you're setting your community room up for 20 people compared to 50 people, then that's gonna determine how many bathrooms code-wise you gotta have. I mean, we're not gonna be that big,
no, we're not.
so I would think we wouldn't, but I don't know what the code is. But that's gonna be the difference.
Is there a code for the number of bathrooms?
It all depends on occupied, it depends on,
Let's see.
I think it's constant occupied space
Aha.
is,
Okay.
you know.
And there's also, for restaurants, it's whether you're serving food
Yeah.
and that sort of thing, which.
Yeah,
we're
people
not doing.
attendance, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it goes actually by seating capacity in a
Okay.
restaurant.
Yeah.
That's what I was curious, if under a community
Yeah.
room, does it do the same thing?
But it's not occupied all the time.
It's a restaurant.
You know, it's for an event here or there, you know,
Mm.
or whatever. But I can certainly ask that question,
Mm.
just to get that covered.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's,
It's more than one.
Yeah. Yeah, we
um,
didn't have that many here.
I bet your Parkman doesn't have two.
I don't think Parkman has
There you go.
one, that's kind of what I was thinking, and they have a library.
How big is their building?
Oh, wow.
Not very
I bet
big.
it's not much different than that,
Oh, I think it's smaller.
probably.
It's smaller, but it has a daylight basement.
Yeah.
But that's where the library is, right?
No, library's in the main office.
Oh,
The
town office.
The room downstairs is just a community voting. It's not this size.
That'd be interesting then to look at that, because that building is not very big. If they've got all that on one floor,
Nope, they've got a window type, situation with 2 windows. They've got small storage off there, they've got a small room where the select person who does the town manager type stuff has an office. Then they have an open space, which is their library, with the stairs at the back, that goes down to